Good afternoon, RGA members and guests. Welcome to today's webinar, Eating the Mediterranean Way, Nutrition to Keep You Healthy, presented by Jill Davis, Health Educator with Humana. I am Daryl Davis-Fulmer and excited to serve as your host today. And I also want to thank Tracy Eubanks for technical support and Tim O'Connell, our Executive Director, for being here today. Just a little bit about Jill. She has been a health educator with Humana for over 3 years. She's a certified lifestyle medicine professional, specializing in using therapeutic lifestyle interventions to treat chronic conditions. With a master's degree in health promotion management and certification as a personal trainer, Jill has over 20 years of experience in health and wellness industry. She has worked with several community partners in industries providing health education and lifestyle coaching with a specialization in chronic conditions. Before Tim comes on, I have a few things you should know. Each of you has been muted to help ensure the presenters can be heard. This presentation is being recorded. We will send you a link to recording along with a PowerPoint in our follow-up email. For those of you who sent questions, we submitted them, and many may be incorporated in the discussion today. If you think of a question, however, during the presentation, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom page. Questions will be answered during the Q&A period, if not before. We also want to thank Denny Fernandez from Humana for being here today as well. Denny, thank you also for connecting us to Jill. We really do appreciate it. So without further ado, Tim, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. So good to be
Welcome.
here. And thank you, Humana, for providing this program. It's been making me hungry for the past 3 weeks, just looking at the invite on my calendar. So I can't wait to hear this information. I'm a big believer in food is medicine, and this is some good food. So I call it good medicine too. So glad to be having Humana present this to you all as members. A couple things I just want to highlight real quick is you should be getting Living Power, the magazine, in your mail. I just got mine yesterday, but I hope you enjoy that. That one was a lot of fun putting together. We interviewed a number of our members to put the stories together, and that's what makes it kind of special is we just feel honored to be able to tell your stories, and we look at Living Power as the best way to do that and get the most readership. Just so you know, that magazine also does go to the legislature, and it's an important tool for us representing you to our elected officials. Couple pieces of news, and I'm going to put in the good news category. One is the most recent performance returns for the pension have come out. And the good news on that is it was a really strong second quarter for the pension. We were watching that. It's also the summaries are in Living Power. The current issue of Living Power only has first quarter, but the second quarter returns have just come out recently, and they're looking really good. So it doesn't matter if you're local or state retirees, that is the number that matters. And it looks like the treasurer is doing good work there. So just want to give a shout out for that, making sure you're watching those numbers. We sure are. The next thing I want to share with you is, and this is another kind of news from the treasurer's office, but the Investment Modernization Act is going into effect this January. That moved the treasurer from a sole fiduciary model to an investment authority model. What that means for you is there's going to be more people watching and giving input to making sure we do get strong future returns. So I think that's good news, but that's the Investment Modernization Act will go into effect this January. So that's a big change. North Carolina was one of the last states in the country. It's kind of a throwback to colonial times to have a sole fiduciary model. And now we have joined the 48 other states that run on with an investment authority type structure. So that's good news as far as governance of your pension. Next thing, and this is what we love to do, we love to get out on the road, and we are so pleased we're going to be going to Western North Carolina. We've been waiting for Western North Carolina and they are ready for us. And if you live in that area, or if you want to do a little traveling and make it a little vacation, we hope you'll join us in Asheville. And then we're going to shoot back down the mountain. The next day we'll be in Greensboro. So that is September 23rd in Asheville and September 24th in Greensboro. So look for invitations to those, and especially online. So if you're not in that district, look for the online invitation. That's the only way you'll be getting an invite to it. But it's also in the magazine. You'll see about it in the magazine as well. Finally, I just want to thank you for your membership, and know that our strength and our superpower is membership. So when we are lobbying and speaking on your behalf, it is because we are the largest state and local retiree organization in the state, and one of the top, if not the top in the country. So we do not have political action committees. We do not roll around with fat wallets. We roll around with the information to share that we are the largest, and membership makes a difference. So we get calls back and we get responses based upon our membership. So I want to thank you for your membership. I also want to just encourage you, if you've got somebody that does not know about RGA, let's go ahead and tell them about it. Let's not be the best kept secret. Invite them, and it makes a difference. I could give you example after example where when an elected official finds out the number of members we have, I get a call back like within about an hour going, I did not know you guys were that large. And that's only because each and every one of you matters and makes a difference. So that person you worked alongside for 20, 30 years, let's get them in. Go ahead and invite them. So I want to thank you again. Looking forward to this program. Thank you, Humana. They are one of our sustaining sponsors, and we have counted on them for great programs like this for years, and glad to see they're doing another one for us. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Tim, for that update. And I must say, you're probably the hardest working man in the state to try to work for benefits and the maintenance of those benefits for retirees. And being a retiree, I really appreciate you. So
Well,
we're looking forward to this presentation. So Jill, it's your turn. Um, we're ready to eat. How about that?
Thank you guys so much for having me. I love the build up. Love the comments about the food. And I have to say, you are correct. Food definitely is medicine. And if you pay attention to research, it is showing to be the fact over and over again. So today we're talking about the Mediterranean diet, probably one of the most well-known diets. And before we start, we have a couple of poll questions to ask you. Very curious about your answers. Tracy's going to bring that up. And question one, we want to know if you're familiar with the Mediterranean diet. I know it's been around for 50 years. A lot of cardiologists recommend it. A lot of dietitians, a lot of endocrinologists are recommending it, but I'm curious how many on this call today have actually heard of it, but also are familiar. So go ahead and pick your choice, and we'll get these answers tallied up.
Yeah, they're coming in hot. Thank you guys so much. We're just about
Awesome.
finished.
I'm going to guess the second one is probably going to be the most common.
All right. I'll go ahead and get that one stopped.
Great.
Right, Jill.
Okay, next
Yep.
question. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, 84% heard of it and know the basics. Great. 3% do follow it regularly, so that's good to know. Okay, how about one more question before we get started? We're curious, how many of you have had your doctor or another trusted health professional recommend that you follow this Mediterranean diet? We're polling this because conventional medicine does seem to be changing a little more into prevention and better management through lifestyle. So I'm just curious how many doctors are kind of using nutrition a little more in their practice to help with chronic conditions.
Do you have another guess, Jill, for which way this one is going to go?
I think it's no. I'm hoping it's yes. Yeah. I thought that it would be a stronger no, but my hope is that the future it's going to be changed and we're going to get a lot more of these yeses. So Kind of what I was expecting, but not exactly hoping for. But you know what? That's also why we're here to teach this information. Doctors don't always have the time for this, right? And they're not always trained in nutrition. So that's why we have other people that can share this information with you. I don't really need to introduce myself again. Daryl and Tim did a great job of doing that, but I do want to let all of you know that this was put together by a team using clinical research and also documented research that's been collected for literally over 50 years. I am not a clinical person. I do have a lot of information in my brain, but I'm not a doctor. So what I would like to make sure you all do is if you are considering making any changes to your lifestyle, whether that be changing your diet or starting to exercise and you're not used to it already, I do recommend that you let your doctor or another trusted health professional know before you make any changes to your lifestyle, especially if you take any types of medications or have chronic conditions. All right, so that being said, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over what the guiding principles are of the Mediterranean diet, kind of where it originated, why it's even a factor. We're going to talk about the benefits of the diet that have been researched. There's some new exciting research that just landed recently that I'm going to be able to talk about as well. And then we'll talk about some ways that you can get started. Feel free to ask questions as we go through the presentation. I do have a list that came through earlier beforehand, and a lot of those are going to be answered during the presentation, but I'll try to get as many answered as I can live while you have me here. So just so you know where this originated, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Dan Buettner and the Blue Zones. If you watch Netflix at all, you might have heard of the Blue Zone. It's a documentary. But what happened was Dan saw that a lot of these people that were in countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea actually started living longer than Americans. So, for example, in some of these Mediterranean countries, the age limit where people live to be 89 years old was definitely noticeably different than the American age of 80 as far as our lifespans here in America went. So, of course, if you see somebody doing what you want or ending up the way you want to end up, the first thing you do is see what their behaviors were. So, what happened was 50 years ago, they sent a team of researchers to the Mediterranean islands, Italy, Spain, all of these different locations to see why their rates of chronic disease were so much lower than America. And the biggest thing they noticed, it's not everything, but the biggest thing they noticed was the way they were eating was significantly different than the way Americans were eating, which allowed them to live longer, more independently, far less chronic conditions, and longer lifespans, better overall quality of life, and they were a lot healthier. And it really wasn't a very strict diet to follow either. So that's why we've adapted it more here in America, so that if people follow this diet, which of course is heavily researched, you consider 50 years, something that's been around that long has a lot of research behind it. And it's definitely made an impact on chronic conditions. And I've seen it from my personal experience as well. So some of the potential benefits that were noticed with this diet were things like improved sleep, reduced inflammation to help fight diseases and decrease risk for cancer. People were living longer, so increased longevity. They also saw remarkable improvement in brain function and cardiovascular health. It also showed the potential to improve eyesight. So lots of great potential benefits. Mental health also improved because, of course, our brains are related to our bodies. If we have physical health, we have better mental health. So lots of good improvements when somebody follows the Mediterranean diet. Okay, so a lot of people want to know, okay, we know our benefits. We want to find out what we need to do. What is the Mediterranean diet? I am just looking through these questions really quick. Okay, and I'm sorry about the sound quality. For some reason, almost every time I start teaching a class, somebody at the primary care office I'm in right now starts to cut the grass. So if that's what you heard, I apologize. I think they're almost done. They were literally with a blower right outside my window. So if you heard a lot of noise, I apologize. Um, okay, so number one for Mediterranean diet is going to be rich in fruits and vegetables because the higher nutrients we have, the better our body's going to function. They want to know how many servings typically. We want to aim for at least 3 servings of fruit and 3 servings of vegetables every day. Research shows that 10 servings can help even more. So if you think about the goal overall, you're going to keep hearing the same things. You're going to keep hearing high nutrient content is what we want to aim for, high fiber, and low inflammation. So we want to eat a lot of anti-inflammatory foods. So the more nutrients we're able to pack into our diets, the better our outcome and the lower our risk of chronic conditions. So another question I get is what types of fruits and vegetables are the best? I will say the best king of all vegetables are the dark leafy greens. The reason behind that is they are the highest in nutrients out of all vegetables. So first thing you want to do is make sure you're getting at least 3 to 5 servings of dark leafy greens per week. If you're curious about what a serving is, you want to just think about a cup is what should fit in your hand, or basically a half a cup cooked should fit in your hand of vegetables and fruits. Serving size is about 1 cup raw and a half a cup cooked. So that kind of hopefully will give you an idea. I tend to not have people measure their food because that gets to be monotonous and stressful. And typically, when you assign somebody a monotonous and stressful task, it's not sustainable. So I usually have people kind of eyeball that. So we use our hand often to help with serving sizes. So the more nutrients we can get, the better. Dark leafy greens are, again, the best, but you want to have the whole rainbow because the different colors of vegetables and fruits are representing the nutrients that are in them and the highest level of nutrients. That's why they're all different colors because they're highest in different nutrients. You want to make sure you get that covered, fruits and vegetables. And the best fruits to have on this diet are blueberries. The whole family of berries are excellent. When it comes to brain health, blueberries are the most studied. They have an ingredient in them called anthocyanin, which is what makes them blue. And that has been the most researched antioxidant to help with inflammation and, believe it or not, with blood glucose control. So berries are top of the list for fruits. For vegetables, top of the list, dark leafy greens, but you definitely want to incorporate all colors, all types, just to have more of a vast nutrient diversity. Just making sure we're good with questions. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling. So number 2 is whole grains. So there are a lot of people out there that are afraid of carbohydrates. There's a lot of fad diets going on, a lot of weight loss diets going on. Whole grains are very different than simple carbohydrates. So keep that in mind. Simple carbohydrates break down quickly, spike blood sugar, can cause inflammatory response. Simple carbohydrates are things like things that are made with white sugar, like sweets, white flour, pastas, anything basically that's processed and made with the white stuff. That is the stuff we should be staying away from. But whole grains are actually very important because they offer a lot of nutrients that our body needs and a lot of fiber. And the difference between a whole grain and a processed grain is a whole grain has three sections to it. There's an inner layer, there's a middle layer, and then there's an outside layer. So what happens when a whole grain gets processed and turned into more of a simple carbohydrate is that that outer layer and middle layer are stripped of it. They're completely taken out. So that means all the fiber and virtually all the nutrients are taken out, and all that's left is that middle part, which is starch. So that's why we say whole grain. It's very different than a processed carbohydrate. So whole grains, like I said, rich in fiber. Fiber is extremely important for your gut to act properly, for your healthy bacteria to thrive. Of course, it helps cholesterol. It helps with bowel movements. It helps keep people regular. As far as servings go, you want to aim for 3 to 6 servings of whole grains per day. And you can see the serving size is about a half a cup of cooked oats, rice, or pasta, 1 slice of whole grain bread, or 1 ounce of cereal. And again, if you're trying to eyeball it, think about that cupped hand. That half a cup should fit in the palm of your hand. Another thing about these whole grains too is you don't want to fall for the marketing. So this actually usually makes people really angry when they find out that marketing is kind of there just to get you to buy the food, but not necessarily to keep you healthy. So if you're, say, looking at a loaf of bread that's whole wheat, right? You want to make sure you look at the ingredients on the back. So it looks great from the front. It says it's 100% wheat. It might say all natural, but when you turn it over, it has to say 100% whole wheat or whole grain. Make sure it has that word whole in the ingredients list. It can even be dyed brown with molasses to make it look healthy, but you want to make sure it has that word whole in it. If it just says 100% wheat, but not the word whole, that's not the kind you want. So basically, you're going to want that bread that you lay on the counter and it goes bad within 3 days. Okay. You don't want something that 1 month later, it still looks exactly the same as when you bought it. That means those preservatives are in there and they're in there for a reason so that it will last longer. So keep that in mind. I know it's not fun. They make some great brands that you can store in the freezer, keep in the refrigerator. So just so you know about looking at labels, so important to look at ingredients. And whole grains too, again, just don't trust the way something looks. Sometimes they use the marketing again to get people to buy things, but doesn't mean they're necessarily healthy. All right, let's just make sure I'm getting these questions answered. Whole grain, Avery, is the same as whole wheat. Yes. Sorry, the guy doing the grass is behind me again. Should we implement supplements, fiber? That's something to talk to your doctor about. And gluten allergy, yes, it's different for people that have certain allergies or aversions to whole grains. That is definitely something you want to talk to your doctor about what you can and can't eat. And registered dietitians are also great to help with things like that. So olive oil, no surprise, is also part of the Mediterranean diet. It actually is very good for inflammation. It has been researched to show that it can help reduce the bad cholesterol, which is the LDL. I like to use the L for lousy to help people remember it. And it can improve how well the good HDL cholesterol works. And you can think of H for healthy, so that you know HDL is the healthy cholesterol. You want that number to be higher. And LDL is for lousy cholesterol. You want that number to be lower. So it's not just about your total cholesterol, it's about the breakdown of the numbers. So keep that in mind. I know it's overwhelming when you go to the aisle and you try to buy olive oil, because there seems like there's hundreds of different brands, and it can be extremely stressful to try to figure it out. You do want to look for the extra virgin olive oil. That means that it is the highest in nutrients and the least processed. You also want to make sure that it is organic, so there's not a lot of chemicals in it. And you want to make sure it's in a dark bottle and store it in that dark bottle. A lot of times olive oil will have an expiration date on it. If not, you want to try to use it within 6 months. And again, I know it's expensive and I know it's overwhelming. There's some great research behind the olive oil, though. If you are trying to lose weight, keep in mind each tablespoon of olive oil actually is about 100 to 150 calories. So you don't want to be excessive with it, especially if you're trying to lose weight. You don't really want to go more than 4 tablespoons a day, which is roughly 400 to 500 calories extra. So just use it sparingly. We don't need a ton of it to see benefits. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so this is the part that sometimes people start to immensely dislike me on. We talk about meat. So Mediterranean diet is usually it's a much easier diet for people to follow. Especially if they're used to eating more fast food type, high fat foods. This is an easier transition, which is why it's a lot more recommended by doctors, because it's easier to follow and you don't have to count calories and it's not really strict. But the Mediterranean diet actually does encourage people to limit their intake of red meat, and that includes lamb and pork, and of course, beef, only because of anti inflammatory properties. You want to avoid as much as possible, at least limit. My brother actually suffers from high cholesterol, and we recently were talking about his diet, and two things he was eating was causing his cholesterol to spike, and one was hamburgers 3 times a week, and the other was ice cream. And since he's cut both of those things out, his cholesterol is getting much better. So it's a great thing. Lean poultry, you want to aim for about 3 ounce servings a week. So that would be about the size of the palm of your hand. You do want to go for the lean poultry, so not the dark meat, but the white meat. The main thing, you're probably getting an idea of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to limit saturated fat from animals. Saturated fat from animals and the way that we process these meats here in America is very different than it used to be back in the day. A lot of people say, oh, I used to eat the red meat all the time and everything was fine. It is not the same today that it was back then. There's a lot of different processes involved now, and research is proving that it can be inflammatory. So if you're trying to reduce your risk of chronic conditions, you do want to limit or avoid red meat and keep it as lean as possible. I probably don't have to tell you, I know we're in the state of North Carolina. And when I moved here, I didn't think I would ever see any place that had more fried food. So I see that it is very difficult here. There's a lot of culture that fry their food. There's a lot of gravy, there's a lot of biscuits, there's a lot of sweet tea, and don't get me wrong, they are all delicious. But I think a lot of times people were raised cooking that way, so it makes it a little harder for you to get used to cooking your food a little differently. So I completely understand that. It's much better to bake or broil or grill your food than it is to fry. only from a health standpoint, but I know, again, it's hard to get used to that. Seafood is another good thing. Fatty fish in particular is rich in omega-3s, which you might have been hearing a lot more about recently. There's a lot of research coming out on omega-3 fatty acids for inflammation in particular. A lot of people with arthritis are using omega-3. It's overall good for the heart, good for the brain. So a good source of omega-3s. Fish, but also things like flaxseed, chia seeds. I actually know a doctor that recently prescribed a patient 3 times at least a week of servings of flaxseed because they needed to raise their omega-3s. Uh, if you are somebody that doesn't like fish, then you can actually supplement. But before you do something like that, you definitely need to talk it over with your trusted medical professional. The supplement industry is not regulated at all. You probably already know that. So a lot of companies out there are cutting corners and they're using cheaper ingredients to bring their costs down. So they're not testing for heavy metals or other toxic ingredients, and they may not be safe. So you want to make sure that you research the company that you're choosing the supplement from. And the best way to do that is through somebody who has done the research, like a pharmacist or whoever you trust for medical help. If you are choosing to do the fatty fish, the Mediterranean diet recommends 2 servings of fish per week. And that includes salmon, trout, mackerel, sardines, and tuna. Those are the highest in omega-3s. Sometimes people ask if shrimp and shellfish is a good source of omega-3s. Yes, it has omega-3s, and it's just not as high as the fish that we're talking about right now. And again, if you decide you want to supplement, please talk to your healthcare provider before you just go and buy supplements off the shelf. I'm just going to check questions again here. Okay, we're probably going to have to hold the questions until the end, but I will come back and I'll get them answered. I just don't want to keep you guys beyond your time. So legumes I want to talk about because they're a great source of protein. They also, if you find the legumes that are darker, so like in this picture here, we see kidney beans, black beans. The darker beans are actually higher in that same antioxidant called anthocyanin that's found in blueberries. And actually, this is on the list if somebody has diabetes. The beans have been heavily researched and are very good as a diet for somebody who has diabetes because the anthocyanin in them helps to control blood sugar. It's been researched and proven to do that. They're also very high in fiber and other nutrients, including B vitamins, and they have protein in them. So the only thing you need to pay attention to with the beans is if you do choose the canned variety, you need to make sure you at least rinse them really well. But the ultimate guide for choosing your food wisely is staying as close to nature as possible. So when you're in the grocery store, you want to think to yourself, is this the closest to the natural form that I can get? Because the goal is less processed food, no ultra processed food, and just stick as close to nature as you can. And by the way, any beans are great. They're all a great source of protein and fiber. Lentils are excellent too. I just pointed out the darker beans because they're the highest in that anthocyanin antioxidant that we talked about. Nuts are something else that are a very, very healthy part of a diet. A lot of people have told me that their doctors tell them not to eat nuts because they're high in fat. But the important thing to remember is the type of fat that's found in nuts is actually not saturated fat. It's the healthy kind of fat, which is the omega-3s again. And different types of nuts offer different nutrients, just like we talked about with the fruits and vegetables. So have a variety of nuts, one serving of nuts, same thing, the handful, okay? But just remember, kind of like the olive oil, even though this is a healthy source of fat, it does not mean that it's low in calories. So a handful of nuts is anywhere from 100 to 150 calories per serving. You want to try to have all the research I'm seeing says about 5 servings per week of a variety of nuts. So whatever nuts you like the best, but walnuts are the most researched nut for cardiovascular and brain health. So I hope you like walnuts. Almonds are up there too, but feel free to add a good variety. Again, keep your servings small. A lot of times, if you get hungry sometimes at night, you just don't want to sit there with a whole jar of nuts and just be mindlessly eating while you're watching Netflix. Before you know it, you're about 300 plus calories in, and then you just don't even know what just happened. Then you just sit there the rest of the night. So make sure you know your portion sizes. Again, the goal is to try to have about 5 servings per week. So keep that in mind. That's great for health benefits, doesn't need to be overdone. Sodium is something else we need to watch out for. We don't see a ton of issues happening with the salt shaker at the table. That is not typically where the problem with sodium in this country comes from. It's usually from the processed food. So just pay attention to the packages, look at the nutrition facts, look at the ingredients, just make sure you're using the lowest amount of sodium product you can find. And ideally, again, just go back to that staying as close to nature as possible. Okay. Everything we need is found in nature. I know nowadays when we go to the grocery store, very little of that nature exists anymore in those middle aisles. So we really want to make sure that we're choosing whole food and real food and not the boxed food. Okay. There's other ways you can season your food too. I've had people tell me they've actually used lemon on their popcorn instead of salt because it mimics that. I've heard garlic is a great replacement for salt. So there's a lot of different spices you can use instead of salt. Something else that sometimes people don't realize that our taste buds become adapted to whatever it is we're eating, whether it's sweet or usually it's sweet or salty that we like. So if you're trying to eat better and avoid things like sodium, you have to give your taste buds 2 weeks to adapt. So if you're used to high sodium foods, it's not going to taste very good to eat regular, real food that's unsalted for a while. Okay. Give it 2 weeks, and then you're going to notice your taste buds do adapt and you're going to be able to taste the food again. It's just that your taste buds get numb because of all the salt or the sugar or the fast food or whatever it is, and they cannot taste like they're supposed to. So just give it that 2 week period of time and you will see that you'll be able to taste food again. So keep that in mind. Just trust me, try it. I want to see how you guys do on that. Hydration is also very important. Most people don't drink enough water. I think there are some cases where people drink too much water, but a lot of times people think or ask me how much water they should be drinking. That is between you and your doctor, but I will say there's a good kind of a check-in that you can do with your urine. If your urine is clear, you're drinking too much water and flushing your electrolytes out. And if it's clear once in a while, that's not a big deal. It's just if it's clear all the time, you want to kind of back down on water and maybe add some electrolytes. If it's a light yellow, that's what you're looking for. Very light yellow means you're hydrated and you have all your electrolytes. And then, of course, the darker yellow you go, the more dehydrated that says you are. Okay, so hopefully that helps give you a sense of how much water you should be drinking, but that really is between you and your doctor. Because we're talking about the Mediterranean diet, I do need to bring up that if you research this diet, you will see that 1 glass of red wine per day is recommended on this diet. I want you to keep in mind this is a Mediterranean diet, and the Mediterranean countries are actually the ones that make a lot of the red wine. They get together and socialize around wine often, which is why the wine is on the diet. There was some myths back in the day saying that red wine was actually good for you, but it is not. New research is showing there are no health benefits of red wine. I'm sorry. I know that can be upsetting. I usually get a lot of feedback on that one, but in order to get enough antioxidants and resveratrol from red wine, you would actually need to drink 14 glasses a day. Don't drink 14 glasses a day. But we just want to kind of put that into perspective that wine is actually not a health benefit. It is on this diet mainly because it's a social thing, and the social connection around the wine is what makes people's health better, not the wine itself, especially found in America. A lot of wines in America have a lot different processing than the wines in the Mediterranean. So keep that in mind. All right, I think we have covered the Mediterranean diet. You all should have a handout attached to this presentation, and that handout should have all the bullet points we talked about. I hope that a lot of your questions were answered. In the back of your handout, you can see all of the websites that were used and the research for this presentation, so these are good places to go. If you're looking for more information that's reputable. And I also want to make sure we get some of these questions answered before our time comes to a close.
Yes. Jill, there's some that are on the line now. So if you don't mind, I can start asking them for you. So is pork truly a white meat?
Pork is considered a red meat.
Okay, then that answers that question very quickly.
Yes.
What about plant-based patties in place of beef meat for hamburgers?
Mm,
And this person thinks they taste great.
okay. Um, I would say once in a while they're okay, but if you think about it, that's still a processed food. And unfortunately, a lot of companies are kind of jumping on this plant-based bandwagon, right? And they're making foods that are to resemble actual meat, but they're processed. So as long as you're looking at the ingredients thoroughly and you recognize all of the ingredients and none of them are chemical, I'd say once in a while those are good, but the main goal is to eat real food and not processed food. That's a
Okay,
great question.
great. Great. What about the mercury in, say, fish?
Yeah, so the smaller the fish, the lower the mercury. So that's an important point. And yeah, I agree. There, it depends on where the fish is from, where it's farmed, if it's, wild caught or if it's farm raised. And then, of course, the whole microplastics thing comes in, right? So if you're hesitant about fish, I would definitely talk to your doctor about whether they think you should be eating fish, because everybody's situation is so different. There's so many variables with each person's health history and medications. If your doctor feels that it would be best for you to supplement instead, maybe they can help you choose a quality supplement to stay safe.
Thank you. So, and Carol had a question about limiting sodium. Again, I know you
Mhm.
talked about that a little bit. Um, what she's saying, it seems like many of the Mediterranean diet ingredients and recipes are higher in sodium.
Hmm.
That's what she's finding. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I have not seen that. Um, I think it depends on where you're finding the recipes and what what that particular recipe is calling for. I guess if you're using maybe canned ingredients or more
Mhm.
processed ingredients for the recipe, it can be higher in sodium. But typically, if it's a true Mediterranean diet, it can possibly be higher in sodium. If you're looking for something that's lower in sodium recipe wise, check out the DASH diet, which is the dietary approach to stop hypertension. That's what DASH stands for. So if you're looking for a lower sodium, check out either the DASH diet recipes or the MIND diet, MIND. And that combines Mediterranean with DASH, and that's for cognitive protection. So Mind Diet or Dash Diet, you might find better recipes there that are lower in sodium.
This is a good question. Someone's asking, is iced tea okay as a source of drink along with water, for example? I know people probably want to know if there are other things you can do to get your water.
hmm So the only thing about tea, it depends. I know we're again in North Carolina, so are we talking about sweet tea or unsweetened tea? If it's unsweetened tea, which I'm guessing is what you're talking about, that's okay, but it's not a great source of hydration because of the caffeine. So caffeine acts as a diuretic, which means it gets rid of fluid, so your body's not going to absorb the water as well. So tea is excellent, as a once in a while, but I would not depend on it for your hydration needs.
Okay. What about kosher salt? Is it better?
Um, in my experience, all salt is still sodium. So I would say if you're trying to reduce sodium, maybe try some of those other things we talked about, like the garlic or some of the herbs that don't have sodium in them, or maybe some lemon or lime as flavoring instead. And give your taste buds some time to adjust if you're somebody that is used to the taste of salt and you're trying to get off of it.
Okay. So I have another question about the wine.
Of
Uh,
course.
so, I'm still mad about the ice cream part, but
I
anyway,
know.
anyway, what about white wine?
Wine is wine.
Wine is wine.
That's all I'm gonna say. I know people never like me when I talk about this, but I'm just the messenger of the research. This is just sharing research that alcohol is known now to be a toxin. So really, they're saying the best amount of alcohol in general is zero. But if you are going to drink alcohol, they're recommending no more than one serving a day.
Okay, great. So at least people can have it if they want to enjoy it, not to indulge all the time.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So farm raised versus wild caught fish. Is there a
Fish.
difference?
Oh boy, this is the can of worms I was trying to avoid.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, 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 don't be. It's an important, I think it's a very important question. So with the wild caught, right? That's tends to be a little higher or more risky with the mercury, right? It's also better because there's no antibiotics fed, there's no disease. And if you actually look at, say, salmon in the grocery store and you look at the farm raised versus the fresh caught, there's a huge difference in appearance, right?
Mhm.
And the farm raised usually is not recommended. Now with the whole thing of microplastics, there's talk about you even have to think about where you're getting the wild caught from. You just have to research the lower microplastic containing fish. But again, the smaller fish is lower mercury, and there's actually some tuna that's available in stores now. I think it's called Safe Catch, which is they say that it's the lowest mercury and that they test for mercury. So there are some options now out there that are actually testing for that.
Great. I
I
know
hope
that we
that
like
helps.
the wild caught.
Yeah.
How do eggs and say another person asked about deli meats?
Mm.
So maybe those
Yep.
two at the same time.
Great question. So deli meats are processed meat, which is definitely something you want to avoid, at least that you want to limit. A lot of processed meats now are being linked as a carcinogen, which is also not fun news, but it's true. So you want to avoid processed meat as much as possible. Eggs, it depends. There's research saying all kinds of things. Eggs, in my personal opinion and research, I think are safe to have in moderation. I personally think they're an okay source of protein. Each egg has about 75 milligrams of natural sodium in it, so that's something to consider too. But overall, you want to think about better than what, right? Like if you're going to eat a hamburger or eggs is the better option. So just think about staying as healthy and as close to nature as you can, and you should be doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's what the one thing we need to remember about staying close to nature. Let me answer this question because it's come up a lot for the audience. We are sending out the recording and the PowerPoint. And there may be a handout that accompanies that at the end that should probably go out in your emails or land in your emails between now and Thursday or tomorrow or Friday. So please watch for that. And the recording will also be posted on our YouTube channel. There were quite a few questions about that. You know, this is one that I had some dealings with. Medicare does not cover a dietitian or nutritionist unless you already have diabetes. You know, if you're when you really need to have that assistance, you can't get it unless you pay for it. So the person is asking, what are the avenues for advocating a change in policy? I'm not sure if you can get to that one. We're getting close to time, but that's something I think maybe to think about. What would you say to that, Jill?
Yeah, I would say keep contacting your local politicians. And I feel the same way. I'm a big fan of preventing rather than reversing or dealing with once you get a chronic condition. So I do feel dietitians should be covered by insurance as well.
Mhm.
So that's an excellent point, and I'm hoping that there's a shift because insurance companies do spend a lot more money on people once they get the chronic condition, and it probably would be a lot less expensive to prevent it. So
Yes,
I agree
absolutely.
with you. That's a great
Yeah,
question.
it is a great question. So, okay, so healthy pasta options. Can you eat cheese? What about that
Boy.
skinny popcorn? I'm trying to get
Okay.
it.
So the pasta, yes, there are healthier pasta options. If you look in the pasta aisle, there's usually like lentil pasta, there's 100% whole wheat pasta, there's chickpea pasta. So yes, just look for the pasta that's not made with the enriched flours. Skinny Pop, honestly, the plain one, I've looked at the ingredients. I have it in my house. It's a great snack.
Oh,
It's non-GMO, it's organic, and it only has a few ingredients in it. So I see that as an okay processed food. It's not one of the worst out there. And then there was a third question. What was the other one about?
oh, this is
Pasta,
skinny.
popcorn, and there was a third. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I just left it.
Sorry.
Um, no, that was me too. I should have remembered. Well, let me ask this one. What is the best salad dressing?
Best salad dressing would be the fewest ingredients, lowest in sodium, lowest in sugar. So don't just look at the nutrition facts, look at the ingredients, and it should have the fewest, preferably made with olive oil, like a vinaigrette, and making your own. Can't get more natural than that.
Than that. Yes. Okay. And what about taking a teaspoon of olive oil or a tablespoon? Can people do that?
If you want to, I don't see anything wrong with it if you can
Yeah.
stand it. I do
Yeah.
know people that do that. There was research on arthritis with olive oil where 3 tablespoons of olive oil a day worked like an anti-inflammatory medication.
Oh,
But you do want to make sure that it's a good quality olive oil. I know that's the toughest part.
oh, yeah, that is the other question was about cheese, Jill.
Cheese. Yeah,
Yes.
I probably purposely forgot that one. Um, yeah, cheese is something you definitely want to limit or avoid on the
Yeah.
Mediterranean diet. Yep.
Right. Well, I can't think, someone's asking what if you have a gluten allergy, and I know someone had asked, what about cooking for one person if you're
Mhm.
single? And then we'll
Yeah,
have to stop the question.
sure. Cooking for one person, we used to have a class on that actually. The best thing to do is find things that you can freeze. You know, frozen vegetables are fine as long as they don't have a ton of salt or, other sauces in them. Frozen fruits are fine for the same reason, so you can stock up on things like that. Canned beans, pretty easy for one person. Any beans whatsoever. I would do a lot of meal prepping, like on a Sunday, just buy all your groceries for the week, do some meal prepping, and you can freeze a lot of different things. So cooking for one isn't so hard if you can plan ahead and freeze things to use later. Just use things sparingly and prepare ahead of time. And I know there was quite a few questions about the Mediterranean diet being safe for people with diabetes. Actually, yes, it's a very good nutrition plan to follow for people with diabetes, but I always recommend you check with your doctor first because they know your medical condition the best. They know your medications, what you should and shouldn't avoid. So yes, research-wise, it's great for diabetes, but you still want to check it over with your health professional.
Jill, this has been most enlightening.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you so very much. We had lots of questions. We usually capture those questions, so if we feel that some of them were missed just because we were scanning through,
Sure.
perhaps I could send those to you and we can get those answered, send them back out to people. But we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate you being with us today to share this information about the Mediterranean diet. I think everybody learned something from it. This is so timely, particularly as summer is ending and we need to
Mhm.
prepare for better eating and lifelong health. So again, thank you so very much. I know there were a couple of concerns about not being able to hear, but for those of you who couldn't, we didn't get that on our end, so we didn't know how to really fix it. It may be internet wherever you are located, and that does happen. We apologize for that, but we will be sending this recording, and you'll be able to go back and look at it at your leisure. So we also have a survey that we will be sending out along with that follow-up email, and please fill out that survey, send it back to us. That is how we, perfect our webinars, and that's how we know that these are the kinds of things that you want to learn about. We do these webinars once a month, and sometimes we have some extra ones, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment. But you should get that follow-up email by Friday, and if you could send us the survey back by Monday, that would be great. And you can always go on our YouTube channel and find any of the recordings we placed out there. We usually record each of our webinars unless they are regulated. In that case, we cannot do that. Anyway, to close this out, our next Lunch and Learn webinar is next month, is entitled AI for Everyday Task, and it is scheduled for September 3rd, 12:30 to 1:30. This is a fantastic opportunity to better understand AI and its benefits. Lane Freeman from the North Carolina Community College System office will give us this information and try to dispel some of the mystery of AI. It's not going away, and you keep hearing about it. We're going to try to help you understand it better. We'll send the link. It'll be in the follow-up email as well. And in addition, next month, the week after September 10th on a Wednesday, we're offering an exclusive webinar entitled The Road to Medicare. Many of you have asked about that because you are now turning 65 or you want to know the 2026 updates. Jeannie Skepsey from the Department of Insurance will discuss that. So please join both of those webinars. And so without further ado, it's 1:29, and I think we did good, Jill, Denny. We thank
Absolutely.
you all so much, and thank you for being partners of ours. We really do appreciate you. We'll probably call you back sometime soon. So thank
Anytime.
you.
Thanks for
And
having us.
everyone else, Did you say something? I'm sorry.
Thank you for having us.
Oh,
Thanks.
you're quite welcome. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And as always, the association stands ready to assist you in your retirement. Happy Wednesday. Stay safe.